Hello and welcome to the Wine and Wisdom Show. Thank you for being here with me tonight, a Wednesday night. It's cold here in Sydney, but I'm glad you have decided to prioritize some time so you could be here with me tonight. It's going to be an incredible show. Oh my goodness. If you are here as a returning guest, thank you for coming back. We really appreciate it. If you are here for the first time, welcome and cheers to you. I hope you've got your glass of wine ready because there's a lot of wisdom to come. I wanted to tell you a little bit about this show because, first of all, I started it because I believe in connection. I believe with connecting with others who are on this planet to be able to, fill their brains with more wisdom, fill their hearts with more courage and love, and just to be able to share joy and inspiration together. So this show is about me being able to connect with you. And it's also about me being able to connect the really resilient and courageous self-leaders that I have been lucky enough to have in my world somehow, some way. And tonight is no exception. Oh my goodness. I don't think you will have ever met anybody like Dianne McGrath, who is about to come up. Let's just bring her up onto the show right now. See if we can get her. There she is. Hello, Dianne.
Hey, hi Heidi. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Great to see you this evening.
Thank you very much. And thank you for being here. For everybody who is watching, this is the amazing Dianne McGrath. There are many layers to her extraordinariness. Is that a word? I don't think that's a proper
I feel like
word.
I should have a cape when you said the amazing Dianne McGrath. Like a cape.
I think you should have a cape. I mean, our episode tonight is a one-way ticket to Mars. Would you have the courage? And of course, the reason for that is because Dianne is she's one of the top 100 when there were over 200,000 applications to take a one-way ticket to Mars. And I don't know about you, but I am extremely interested in hearing the entire backstory to that, about what it's going to be like, where she got her courage, how it's all possible. But I suppose before we do that, we should have a little cheers. I know your glass and cup is different to mine. Your body is more of a temple than mine, obviously. I mean, you are going to Mars, so you've got to take care of yourself a lot more than I do. I'm just here for decades still on Earth, planet Earth, as a wee mortal human.
I'll take it for the team for you, Heidi.
Thank you very much. So what have you got there?
I've got a decaf coffee.
So, a decaf coffee.
Yes, I know. He's like, decaf, what? But it is close to bedtime for me. Yeah. So if I have caffeine at this hour, I wouldn't need anything to help me launch. I'd be gone, flying.
Oh, and we've got, Magdalene, hello. I'm so glad you're here. Cheers to you too. What are you drinking? A white, a red, a beer, a bubbles, a whiskey, a rum? What are you all having at home? We'd love for you to let us know in the chat. We can't actually see that you're live. I can see that there are people there, but I don't know who you are unless you comment. So please let us know what you're having in your glass tonight while you watch the Wine and Wisdom Show. So let's get this started. Dianne, first of all, can you please share with us who you are, what you do, and what the positivity that you are sprinkling around our globe?
I love that. That's awesome. Who am I? Gosh, isn't that a deep question to start with?
Yeah.
I guess you could probably sum me up as an explorer. Not the traditional way of going out and looking through jungles or whatever, but I'm deeply curious. I've got this almost ferocious, fearless curiosity. And that's one of the reasons why I've signed up to go to Mars, but it's also behind why I've decided to go, how can we become more sustainable as a society. It's what's driven me behind my PhD and the work I do in food waste and sustainability. And so for me, being a waste warrior, so to speak, as well as being an astronaut candidate, as well as being a biohacker, I'm just fascinated by what is possible. So that's what drives me, trying to uncover the remarkable things that we can achieve.
And so, apart from being the Mars One astronaut, like, how does that unfold? What are you doing to put those things in place so that we can all benefit?
Gosh, so the Mars One mission itself, I'm sure some of your listeners tonight will be aware it's a one-way mission to Mars. So I've been doing a lot. Yes, to stop that clanger there. Boom, one way.
Yeah, one way ticket only.
That's a no return. That's correct. So the one-way mission aspect of things is one of the things that grabbed me about this entirely, because I wanted to sign up because of the element of having to live there. Because when you go somewhere to visit, it's very different than when you live somewhere. So you think about all of us in our lockdown situations at the moment. People have done DIY projects at home. They've cultivated new gardens. They've really cared for the space that they're in. Whereas when we go somewhere on holidays or just to visit something, we don't have ownership of that, and so we don't treat it the same way. So I was fascinated to be a part of a society where it's critical to preserve every resource we have, because you can't live on Mars unless you're sustainable. There's no Bunnings over the next crater to get some more fertilizer. It doesn't exist. You got to deal with it all yourself. Everything you bring with you is going to be what you have. That's it. So we have to. There's no what a recycle, reuse. No, we really have to make sure everything is considered a resource constantly. So that completely fascinated me, and I thought, wow, if we can do that to live on Mars, that means we're going to have to design, start to mock up, market tests, build, and then scale up all of that sort of technology, all of those sorts of systems here on Earth first. So we could almost remake this planet before we even get to Mars, just because we're trying to get there.
Yeah.
So that was so inspiring to me. And I thought, well, part of my journey and what I want to help sprinkle on this planet, as you touch on, is that sort of aspect of being able to see our planet from a different perspective, to step back from Earth, look at it from space, and understand that we have to protect it.
Wow. I mean, for us to be able to improve what we've got right here before we even get to there, I mean, that just shows, I think, how inspirational you are, because it's not just about, I get to go to Mars and I get to do this all over here, but actually there is this other underlying purpose, because if that happens, prior to that happening, we have to create something right here where we are on our planet that is so much better than it is today. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I really don't care if my name's ever known. It's Dianne McGrath can be, a shadow in the history books. I really don't care. But if I can be something, maybe even just a shoulder someone else stands on to make that sort of thing happen, how phenomenal is that? We know we're in a challenging time when it comes to our climate. Whether people believe it's because of mankind or because the climate changes just over time anyway, it doesn't matter. The climate is changing. Yeah. And how do we deal with that? And how do we respond to it? How do we adapt? How do we become resilient in such moments? If we learn to do it for a planet where we would die within a few minutes, then we can really make a big difference on this planet. We can become planet B, just staying here.
Oh, I love that. How exciting. Oh my gosh. I've got chills just when you say that.
No, look, it makes me think about things all the time. Like even just the little stuff about our resources that we have. I spent a year going plastic free a couple of years ago as an experiment. It's like, how can I live what if I couldn't use plastic at all? Because I recycle all the time, of course, paper, glass, plastic. Most of us do. We're pretty good at that.
Yeah.
But I thought, wow, look at all that stuff in the recycling bin. What if I didn't recycle anything? What if I just had none of it to go in there to start with? How would that look? And so I had to reshape how I lived my life. I couldn't go and buy anything from any of the aisles in the supermarket except for the ones on the outer. So that was all fresh fruit, fresh
Yeah.
vegetables, meat, etc. Nothing could be pre-made because it was all in packets of plastic. So I ate vastly healthier.
Yeah, I bet.
But
I bet.
it really made me think about our resources. It was just a different way of seeing the world, and it changed my behavior dramatically.
Dianne, I'm really interested in what there has been in the background for you to want to put your hand up, apply for this mission. What's been in the background you think that has given you the courage to put your hand up and apply for this mission? I mean, I know from a little bit of research I did, you grew up in a remote area of Australia. So that, I don't know if that'll be as remote as Mars is, but as it goes here to grow up in that kind of area, it was fairly
isolation.
remote. Yeah,
you've
done it before. That was my entire childhood, she says. But what do you think it is that has, I had a guest on last month, and he talked about this magical dance between choice and chance in life. And is it the choices that we make that bring us to where we are, or have brought you to being a Mars-born astronaut? Or has it been chance? Like, what has it been for you, do you think, that's brought you to this?
Yes, I'm not a strong believer in chance. I'm more focused on opportunity. I see that if we live a life with purpose and we move towards something that's important to us, then opportunities present. And so my grandfather told me as a child that the wise man grasps the opportunity ahead. And so I've always sort of seen, oh, look, there's that extraordinary thing in front of me.
Yeah.
Why not go for it? Because what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is life stays the same. If I don't get to go to Mars, I still live on Earth where I can breathe the air. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But what's the best that can happen? I could also stay here on Earth. That's also pretty good. So, I sort of look at the decisions I make, and it's about decision, isn't it? When you make a decision to do something, you don't go into it half-hearted. You've really got to go into it and believe this is possible. It may be on the edge of possible, but it is possible. Yeah. So we can make it happen. I can go to Mars. We can make this world sustainable. We can do extraordinary things in our lives, in our businesses, in our communities. Even now in this situation of COVID, we sometimes feel we're really isolated. But I've never been connected to so many more people around the world through mediums such as this, through Zoom with people, through Skype and emails. And I've got more new connections all over the world just in the last few months. Yeah. And all of us have a similar experience. This is one of the few times in history where everyone on this planet is experiencing the same sort of challenge in their own way. So we'll take this as a united humanity forward. And what can we learn from that? Let's move forward. And that's what I like to do. I like to move forward with something. Yes, I learn from what I've been through. Absolutely. There's the fool doesn't look back completely. So I definitely learn from that and move forward. But we have opportunities through this. And we just need to sometimes step back out of it and look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have a question for Dianne about anything to do with her Mars trip, like, what she had to do to get on the program, what would happen. I think it takes 7 months from Earth for you to get to Mars. Is that right? Like, yes. What are you going to do for 7 months on the rocket?
Exercise a lot.
Exercise a lot. Yeah, I think we talked about, that I had heard that you needed to do 3 hours of exercise every single day. That's in that right. 7 months on the way to Mars. So is that the truth?
Yeah, about 2.5 to 3 hours worth of exercise when you're in weightlessness. I've run multiple marathons and an ultra marathon, and I've done a lot of endurance work before. So I'm used to exercising for prolonged periods of time, but not every day. Imagine doing that every day for the rest of your life. That's insane. So I've been working on a whole lot of different biohacks to see, well, how can I get the same sort of effect without having to do so much exercise constantly? Because a lot of exercise actually puts stress on the joints and on your heart and so forth. So how can I get the balance to optimize the outcomes without risk as well. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of high intensity interval training, using a lot of time under load, or which is a technique by Body by Science, to really see, can I put my body through extreme pressures in short periods of time to get the same effect? And that's how I've been able to increase my bone mass recently.
Yeah, wow, right. We've got a few questions coming up, but before I forget, I just remembered that I had a question that came through on LinkedIn this morning, and that question was, will there be any wine on Mars? I think it's really important that you answer that question.
It's very important. Well, I understand that the Mars One food system will be all indoors, hydroponics, and thus, predominantly plant-based, supported by insects and algae. So yes, eating insects, but that's another story. So there's a chance that there could be the sorts of plants that may be able to have multiple functions, such as grapes, for example.
Yay.
So it's possible.
Life's going to be fine there then. Life will be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
So Tiffany has asked, what was the criteria for getting on the list?
Well, the first aspect of the selection process was an application. It was just like applying for any other job.
Really?
Just a very different sort of job.
Yeah,
so
sure.
You had to fill in an application form to indicate why you're the best candidate. Examples. Tell us about a time when. So you had to illustrate times when you've made a mistake and learned from it, or times when you've worked with people of other cultures and you've been exposed to new things, and how did you respond to that? And so because Mars One are looking to send crews to Mars that are ethnically diverse, age diverse, and gender diverse. So we need to be able to understand and appreciate and respect other people. So we had to go through an application process like that, and send in a video application. Now, I don't know. They obviously didn't care about the production quality of my video, because I recorded mine. I just got back from a training run for a marathon, and I think I've been running for about 4 hours or 3 hours or something. And I got back to my apartment, and I was still sweaty, and I put on a hoodie, and I thought, I know what I'm going to say now, and I just recorded it straight away on my phone off the cuff, and I I thought, well, they're obviously after something authentic, so there you go.
Yeah.
There's no pretense. Yeah. So the interview process came a little bit later, but we had to go through a medical first, because naturally, to get one of the criteria is you've got to be fit enough, and also mentally fit enough too.
Yeah.
What's my psychological fitness like? And after that, I was invited with 659 other people. So imagine interviewing 660 people.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Gosh. Yeah.
I know. Bless the man that did that.
Yeah.
So he interviewed 660 of us, and all the questions were really around risk. So there were 4 technical questions around the radiation exposure and things like that, to see if we understood what our risks were. And the other 4 questions were personal questions to see, are we prepared for what will be the most challenging thing we'll ever experience in history. And so then from that, they chose the 100 of us who are left. And then we're going into this final round of selection coming up in the sometime future with COVID. At the moment, we don't know when that will be, naturally.
Yeah. We've got lots of questions coming in. Well, I think this one, can you see that one from Tiffany about Leonardo DiCaprio?
Is Leonardo DiCaprio on the list? I haven't seen him on the list, no. Although there are a few out of the 100 candidates. There are a couple of the candidates who are unknown. So there's a couple who have permission to be silent, shall we say? But the rest of we had to announce ourselves and put our applications out in the public sphere as well when we first applied, so people could see who we were. And I looked up who all the other candidates were too, because I had no idea who was applying, and then I saw that there were like astrophysicists and people who had worked with NASA and all these super smart people in the space field, and me.
Wow. I would imagine that all of those people with your food sustainability background, they would be very happy that you would be on the project with them to ensure that they can continue to eat.
Very helpful.
A very helpful trait you've got there. And I wondered, I saw the movie The Martian with Matt Damon. I'm just wondering if is he still there? Like, will he be there as your kind of a rival party? Like,
I don't think so. And bless Matt Damon. I don't think we would have survived on just potatoes. There's a limit to the nutritional value of that vegetable.
I don't know. I'm married to an Irish leprechaun, and that's all he wants to eat, let me tell you. All right. So let's move on to the next question from Magdalene. I'm not going to get to any of my questions. I can see
That's
this
all right.
now. How do you overcome saying goodbye
Not
to
coming,
everybody, you
yeah.
know? Yeah.
Am I saying goodbye? That's
Mm.
a really interesting thing to consider. When I first was shortlisted, and I realized that, wow, I could seriously be going to Mars potentially in 10 or so years, because the first crew aren't going until 2031 at the moment, although they may move out now because they only go to Mars every couple of years,
Right.
just from when the planets are in their orbit for the fastest flight.
Yeah.
I had a look at all of the challenges I faced. So the physical ones, the mental ones. And one of them was around this, like, how would I'll never see my family again. My mother, my father, my brothers. How would I deal with that? And what does it mean for me? And what does it mean for them? So I started seeing a counselor and working through, I guess, a whole ream of things from psychological health to go, okay, well, can I build a resilience toolkit for myself? How can I be bulletproof in that way, so that if I go to Mars, I've started working through this stuff already? And this is exactly one of the areas I work through, grief and loss.
Yeah.
Because I would be treated as if I'm dying, even though I'm just going 54 million kilometers away and a bit. But I'd still be able to email with people. I'd still be able to do delayed video messaging and things like that. But I wouldn't be able to have a direct conversation like we are tonight. So in essence, it would be like having a pen pal. But that's not the same as sitting in a room with someone. It's not the same as on a bad day when you just get on the phone and you want to have a cry to your mum or your best friend or something like that. That will never happen again if I'm lucky enough to go to Mars. So how do I deal with that? So I started working with a psychologist, but also working with a Buddhist teacher who's working on presence and acceptance, things like of that sort of nature, so that I can just accept that it will be a part of my journey.
Yeah. Because I would imagine, like, all that, the testing that you talked about in the interview stages, I mean, there's only so much that you can test for of, I am physically resilient. And there's obviously testing that, people do when they go into organizations about their mental toughness and all of that type of thing. But we never know how we're going to feel when we go through loss and grief.
Yeah.
We think we can imagine it, but for anybody, I'm sure, who has gone through it, it is so unexpected how it actually makes us feel, that it's not like you can prepare for that, really.
No, you can do the best you can in making the most of the relationships you have now.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been doing. For example, I have a twin brother who lives up on the Sunshine Coast. And usually, not this year, but usually every year I go, and ever since I've been shortlisted, I go and spend just a few weeks with him and just live. We live together. How often do we really spend time with our siblings? For those that have brothers and sisters, how often do we actually, rather than at birthdays and weddings and funerals, when do we see them and just become part of their lives? I realized that I didn't have a relationship with my brothers that went beyond, I grew up with them. And then what? So I wanted to know these people as closely as possible, because what if I don't see them tomorrow? What if I do end up getting on a rocket? I want to treasure that, because then I won't have that opportunity. So it's really made me refocus on what matters in my life today. And it's really truly enriched my life.
I bet it has. Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. I can see I'm not going to get to any of my questions, but I think these ones are better. Here's a fabulous one from Belinda. Dianne, you are incredibly courageous. Thank you, Belinda. Usually that means you have fears, but face them. In your quietest moments, what do you fear most about going to Mars?
What do I fear the most about going to Mars? I don't fear the technology failing, because it will fail. And that's an acceptance. When you
don't fear that.
I don't fear it failing, because it will.
Right.
Because then it's nothing that you can necessarily control, but then you actually respond to it. So when that question earlier came about this selection criteria, they're really after human qualities and not necessarily technical skills. The head of selection has said he wants people who are adaptable, resilient, curious, trusting, and creative. Because things will go wrong. And it's how we deal with that. It's how we bounce back. It's how we look for solutions. It's how we bring everybody in and make it happen as a team. This team of 4 astronauts, which will become 8, which will become 12 as the colony gets larger.
Yeah.
So my fear is not about the technical, because we'll find some sort of solution to that.
Yeah.
Something will break. My fear more rests with uncertainty about how I would deal with expectation. I'm like probably a lot of the people who are listening tonight. I'm sure many of us are perhaps A-level in many things in our lives, high achievers and the like.
Why do you think that I collect those people in my life? What are you saying?
I don't know. However, because of that, that we often have really high expectations of ourselves. I'm sure this resonates with a lot of people here. So very high expectations of yourself. That doesn't mean others have that high an expectation. Often, we do really well in doing a mediocre job, often does the job more than fine. And so just being your best you can be is going to be the trick. And for me, I've been worried that what if I get to go to Mars and I've got the entire expectation of the planet on my shoulders? Because here I am potentially being someone to set up the first colony on another planet on behalf of humanity.
Yeah, no,
Don't take that on board, Dianne. That is not your coat to wear. But that's the fear I have there, Belinda, is to worry about whether that's something I accept or not. So I'm trying to choose not to accept that and not to wear that coat.
Okay. Yeah. How interesting. And it's interesting, you talked about those traits that they, wasn't skills, you said, but it was being resilient, adaptable, curious, creative. I mean, these are the traits that, not just astronauts going to Mars need, but this is what we need as leaders in organizations around our world.
Yes.
Because it's those traits that allow us to continue to move forward in a way that will be positive and optimistic. And I don't know, when you just said those, like that's the transferable traits that we need across the board in all kind of leadership positions.
See that in our communities as well. When we've been faced with challenges, look at what's happening during COVID. Look at what happened here in Australia during our bushfire season. Look at the communities that are bound together, that have really moved forward, resilient, they've adapted because things changed. They've had to find new solutions, curious, they had to trust each other to make that happen. So all of those qualities come out when we're pushed to our limits. And so no wonder they're looking for that in their astronaut candidates.
Yeah,
because that's the perfect crew, the perfect team, the perfect community that solves a problem together as a united group.
Of course. For those of you who are listening right now, can I recommend that you share what we're talking, share this to your friends, because I think this is an amazing conversation. To hear what Dianne is saying is completely extraordinary, and I'd love for us to get her wisdom and inspiration out to as many people as we can. But in the meantime, Magdalene is asking about whether your family have felt that they've needed some counselling as well, to be able to, knowing that they're going to have to say goodbye to you.
It's true. It's whether they've had counselling personally, I don't know. They haven't told me that they have. I've had a lot of discussions with my parents and my brothers about it, and my nieces and nephews as well, to see how they're dealing with it. And as things have progressed, as I moved through the selection process, and the numbers came down to 100, that really did put me in I guess the public eye, and I was not expecting that. I was never expecting anyone to pay any attention to the fact that I'd applied for a job to go to Mars. But unless I was actually getting into a rocket, and then on that day, then sure, I expected people to notice me. But until then, I really didn't think anyone would be interested in my story. But then it becomes not just my story, it's part of all of our stories. And so my parents are completely supportive of it. Of course they would miss me, and of course they'd want me to stay as much as they want me to go. But my father has always been someone that says you've got to follow your dreams. So I'm doing it.
You are doing it. Wow. Now, Kevin is asking how long from when first mission lands until housing is established. Oh, she met you at Byron for someone's 50th. How about that?
Fantastic. Great. Yep, I know that. I remember that 50th well. It was fantastic. It was a festival, if I remember correctly.
Oh, was it? They're the best type. They're the best type.
So yes, the housing aspect of things. So what Mars One's concept is they're sending all of the technology in advance and all of the infrastructure for the crews before the crews land. So there'll be about between 6 to 8 technical missions in advance of the first human mission going in 2031. So that will start with a lander in a few years' time that will assess, can they extract water from the soil? Can they create oxygen? Can a seed germinate? So things that will be critical for life. And then they'll start to send a couple of rovers and some landing modules that will become our living quarters. And those rovers will be essentially like robots, and they'll robotically deploy the actual construction of the settlement, get the electricity going, roll out solar panels for that, start to harvest water from the soil, and because it's not soil, it's regular, but harvest water from the ground, which is ice, and put that into tanks. So all of this will happen before the first humans get there. So there will be housing, but it will be already there. They're not sending a single human off this planet until the lights are on and there's water in the tank.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Let's make that a first for humanity and not a first for technology when the humans get there.
Yeah, absolutely. So Belinda wants to know if you've avoided getting into a relationship as a result of going on this trip.
No, not at all. Life is still life. I don't believe in putting things on hold for something which is 10 years' time, if I get to go in 2031 or 11 years' time. So I live my life today for today in a way that benefits tomorrow. So, for example, some of the biohacking I do, for example, so trying to build my bone mass, the activity I do, the way I eat, the exercises I do, these extra biohacks, if they didn't benefit me today, as well as for the future to increase my bone mass, it's not worth necessarily doing it. So I try and focus on things that give me advantages in both aspects of my life today and tomorrow.
Fantastic.
And that includes relationships. I am in a relationship, and I've happily been in one for the last 6 years.
Okay. Well, we're not going to ask how that's going to unfold or what the conversations have been about around that. But Karen's got a fantastic question, of course, being the Wine and Wisdom show. Is there a wine fridge in the rocket?
I haven't seen any interior design that has a wine fridge in it. I think that alcohol will be very limited on such a trip because, of course, we can't have any sort of risks on such a trip. So I believe even on the space station as well, it's exceptionally limited. There's not allowed to be any risks of that sort of nature. No. Too risky.
Especially if they have really yummy buttery Chardonnays that you can't stop and have just one glass, never. All right. Belinda's got a deep question. She apologizes in advance. But have you thought about having to die alone without your family and friends?
Yes, absolutely. Belinda, that's a fantastic thing to think about. I mean, how often do we contemplate our own passing? It's very rare, except sometimes we may do so in moments of sadness. But does it always have to be sad? When we do finally finish our time on this planet or another one, then we'll have achieved something in our lives. What are we leaving behind for others? What are our legacies? If mine can be something which assists in ensuring this planet is a little bit greener, then I feel really comfortable about the end of my days. And if I get to do it on Mars, gosh, I could die in Glen Waverley or I could die on Mars. I mean, the choices I have, ladies and gentlemen. I used to live in Glen Waverley, so I can comfortably say, great place, loved it, fantastic, good spot. Mars might be a little bit better.
It'll be a better memoir anyway, won't it? Okay, so Magdalene is asking, so you're not leaving for 10 years. So
Mhm.
that's a major
It is a
preparation, which
lot of preparation.
allows finally for me to kind of come back to one of my questions, which
Mm,
was around the preparation. So,
mm,
what is going on?
mhm.
And are you having to continually like be anally retentive about your preparation, knowing that it's still 10
10
years
years away.
before you get to go?
Or it's 10 years away, and I may not even get chosen. I may not even get through this final stage of selection that's coming through. But it doesn't mean I
Yeah.
should not try and should not be ready for it. So I focus towards that as well. And I look
Mm,
at the elements that I need to work on for myself, and that's around my mental health, and that's around technical information to
mm,
learn. I increase my cognitive function, work on my bone mass, and some of the other physical things. Because I mean, I know you and I were talking about it a bit earlier, Heidi, that when you go to space, the body is dramatically changed.
yeah.
For example, eyesight. About 82% of men that come back from the space station come back with vision impairment, and 64% of women do. And we also, men and women, their bone mass loss is phenomenal. They lose about 20% of their bone mass in about 6 months in space. So they come back worse than being in osteopenia. They're osteoporotic when they come back from space.
Wow.
Women, when we go through menopause, it takes us about nearly 5 years or more to lose that much bone mass. They lose it in 6 months.
Whoa.
So I looked at all of this sort of stuff when I first got selected in the first stage, and I thought, wow, if I'm facing that, if I could be losing my bone mass like that in that amount of time, heck, hang on. Today, now I'm 50, but at the time I was in my mid to late 40s. And I thought, wow, I'm just going through perimenopause now. I'm going to lose all that here on Earth first, and then I might lose even more of it in space.
Mm,
Wow. That's how do I can't deal with that. It's not going to happen. So
yeah.
I took it on board. It's like, all right, well, let's change this game. How can I build bone? Why does it have to be like that? And just because that might be normal doesn't mean it's natural and doesn't mean it's optimal. Let's see if I can just do things differently. And so I set forward a plan to try and build my bone mass. And I first spent a lot of time thinking, well, how does it happen? Like, how do we lose bone and how do we build bone?
Mm,
And then started to find people to help me along that journey. Because it's like anything in life, when we've got a really big goal and we have no clue, absolutely none how to get there. As soon as we pin it to the wall and say, this is what I want to do, it's amazing how many people put their hands up and say, oh, let me help you with that. Or, oh, I've got an idea.
yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Say what you want to do, put it out there, and the
Out
universe is
loud.
going to bring, oh, absolutely. The universe brings things to you to
Mm,
help you to make it happen. You
yeah.
still have to be discerning about stuff. But yeah, that's been part of my journey to build my bone mass. And I've been increasing it now by a few percent each year, at least 1 or 2% for the last few years. And normally, it declines by about 1 to 3% a year. So I've been
What are
building
you
it.
doing? What are you doing to do that? She knows that I
What's
want
my
to know.
protocol? What's my
Yeah,
protocol?
I'm not telling you. I've got a course for that.
No, not at all. So it's actually the first thing I did was I emptied the cup, and by empty the cup, that means I needed to make sure there was room for new ideas. I had to take out the old ideas about what I thought and what I knew, so that I was ready for new ideas and new thought. And I also had to remove some of the things that I was doing that might have been damaging my bones. For example, running for extreme long distances. As soon as you start running for more than an hour or so, you can actually decrease your bone mass and muscle
Yeah,
mass. So I thought, all right, bye marathons. So I
yeah,
stopped running marathons. Still ran 5K, maybe 10K or something, but no longer extreme distances. So let's stop the things that cause damage. I mean, how often do we start, oh, I'm going to take this pill or I'm going to do that thing, but you're still doing you're doing all
yeah,
this other stuff that, but let's cut a few things out first. Let's just not,
yeah.
then we'll focus on how to fix something. Otherwise, you keep damaging things along the way.
Mm,
It's counterproductive, isn't it? So then I also worked on, okay, what sort of exercise actually stimulates bone growth? And then what do I need to be eating? We talked about calcium earlier, and yeah, calcium's great, but without collagen, you're just going to have brittle bones. So let's
mm,
have a look at what we're eating and what we're eating in combination at what times of the day, and what are the other nutrients we need as well as that. And then when all of that was working and in sync, I then added in some very unusual hacks. I started to do cryotherapy. I started to use something called osteogenic loading. I started doing even a hopping protocol, as simple as hopping. Hopping about 50 times, a few times a week, will increase your bone mass. Simple things, but they're hacks that people don't do. Why? Because they don't know about it, but it works. And of that's the stuff I've been doing, and it's increased my mass.
Wow. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Is there an age limit for the crew, Tiffany? Can I just check, Dianne? I know we have gone over time.
Oh, that's okay.
Are you all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you. There's too many questions here. It's so fascinating. Is there an age limit for the crew?
No, there isn't. There is a health limit.
So,
which is great, hey? Because just because you might be 50, it doesn't mean that physiologically I am. And in fact, my bio age is roughly about 35. So a number means nothing on a sheet of paper. Yeah. It means something when it comes to how healthy you are. In fact, the oldest person who's been to space has been 77. Yeah, so age doesn't matter. And in fact, we need to have older people in early crews as well as younger people. We have to have diversity of ideas and life experiences. We can't all be a homogenous group. We must have diversity. Yeah. We know that having differences of opinion and ideas will lead to better problem solving. Yeah. It's necessary.
Not just on Mars.
Not just on Mars, on Earth as well.
Yeah, on Earth as well. Right. Tiffany has a 12-year-old who wants to know how long it's going to take you to get there. How long will it take me to get there? Tiffany, you can tell your 12-year-old that it takes 7 months to get from Earth to Mars. That's a really long car trip. Oh my gosh. It's like getting in the car at Easter and getting out at Christmas. My goodness. And there's 4 of you, two women and 2 men who will go in first. So then, it's coming up with the next, what is required for the final stage of selection. Tell us about how that works, and then, how's it decided for the first 4, then the next 4, and the next 4? Yes, the final stage of selection is so fascinating how they put it together. I don't know if anyone who's listening on tonight is in the HR field, but this is amazing. You might want to take some notes. It might be useful. Okay. So the selection process, they're bringing all 100 of us together, and we're going to spend up to 5 days together doing a whole lot of team dynamic work. But in advance of us getting together, Mars One has asked us to self-organize into 10 diverse teams of 10. So culturally diverse, age diverse, and also gender diverse. And so we've been doing that in the background, just putting our teams together, getting ready for the selection process. And we have to learn all this material as well. They've sent us information on engineering, on medicine, law. Yes, there's a thing called space law. Who knew? Anyway, so now I know about space law. Wow. Wait for it. The lawyers will be raking it in the future. Can't even begin to imagine. It's fascinating. It's a really fascinating area. Is it? Yeah, you'd be surprised. So anyway, so you've got to learn about space law and engineering and medicine and a few other things. And then we get to the selection process of bringing all 100 of us together, and we're going to go through each day these team dynamic activities in our teams, competing with each other. But during the activities each day, they'll be pulling out people during the time to assess us for the information we should have learned. And our teams can't progress with that activity unless we get the questions right. So we're all helping each other get ready for it. That's, make sure we all understand the engineering and whatever else. So we'll be doing that. And then after that, at the end of each day of the selection, the committee will kick out 10 to 20 people a day. 10 to 20 days. Intense, hey? So, and then day 2, we have to reorganize into new diverse teams. Same thing again that day, another team dynamic activity, kick out another 10 to 20. Day 3, we reorganize into another team of diverse age, gender. I love this concept. Wow. And it's going to trim us down to 10 to eventually 12 to 24 after as well an isolation experiment at the end for about 9 days. What this does, it removes silo thinking. It sees who is it in these teams that understands that it's about what the team is needing to achieve, not who the team is. So it's about the vision, it's about the goal, and that should be able to be achieved no matter who you are working with on any given day.
So I love that. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. I used to work in the government for a number of years and also for large organization too, in the private sector. Silo thinking happens in all organizations. There's a lot of keeping of knowledge. Imagine how successful we would be in our businesses if we stopped holding on to the knowledge and shared it towards an outcome.
Yeah.
Love this. So I'm really excited about this.
And Diane, I would imagine that, all this that you're learning about, in the preparation phases,
Mm.
like between now and 10 years before you go, like what an asset you would be to organizations to be able to put this in place for them and show them how, with such a massive mission as the Mars One is, this is the best practice on how we work as a team to be able to set up something really successful. Like, I mean, that kind of end goal is so much more than even just the little goals that we would have day to day within organizations, but the practice of what you're talking about and the strategy to get to there. Wow, what a gift that would be to so many.
And I love the fact Mars One are filming this next round of selection to make a documentary style series out of it. So think about, as you say, Heidi, what we'll learn from that.
Yeah.
We'll be able to watch this unfold and learn about how these sorts of team dynamics and how these processes could benefit us in our organizations, in our communities. I think it's going to
mind-blowing.
Make such, absolutely. And the changes we'll be able to make positively in such a way. United humanity, united organizations focused on vision.
Yeah. And whether that is in large organizations or in teams of remote workers or small businesses or groups of volunteers, still the strategy behind it, the thinking behind it can be applied to all those types of teams, right?
Oh, most definitely. In fact, only in the last week or so, a number of us from the 100, we call each other Martians. So
yeah, I love that.
Call each other Martians from all over the world. We had a whole lot of hangouts. Now, if we were in our teams and we were competitive, why would we bother getting to know each other from all of the other teams? I think I only spoke to about 1 or 2 people who were in my team getting that's for day one. Everyone else I spoke to during the hangouts that week to get to know them and see how they're going and what their thoughts are on some aspects of what we're doing. They're from totally different teams, but that's great.
But they're your competition.
They're my competition, but they're also not. They're also my collaborators. So that's what I see this as, competitive collaboration. How can we get the best out of each other and ourselves as a community, as a crew, and even in this dynamic activity? How do we get the best out of each other? You've got to collaborate in wanting to win as a group.
Yeah, because I mean, the end goal for all of you is to have a sustainable new society on Mars. Yeah. Now, those other 99 people don't have your background. They don't have your upbringing, your skills, your experience, your education. They may not have the passion for food sustainability that you have or the experience. So, in fact, they're wanting to draw everything they can from knowing you and understanding how you can see all your skills and experience apply when you are with them, perhaps on Mars. So
same the other way around,
and the other way around.
I haven't lived their life. I haven't learnt the things they've learnt, and I'm honoured to be amongst such an incredible group of people that see the world, our world, differently, that have strive for a similar goal as me, but from their own perspective. Amazing people. I'm truly honoured.
Yeah. Well, I've got to get through these questions.
That's all right.
Magdalene is asking, is meditation part of your prep?
Definitely. Meditation is a big part of my preparation. I meditate every day, and some days it's short because life happens and you just have to try and squeeze it in, but it's a commitment to myself, because you can't, as my teacher says, you can't pour from an empty cup. So you need to be full. You need to be able to find the space and create the space. And particularly during the COVID lockdown, as we have had for a prolonged period of time and longer to come yet in Melbourne, meditation's been really important for me here because it's allowed me to create more space. I live in a very small space. I live in a studio apartment. How do I create space when I can't really go outside at all? I create space from within. So it allows me to feel I can be amongst the turmoil within myself in comfort and deal with and be in a calm in a challenging moment.
Yeah. Has that started? Has that been a practice you've started, or is that something you've always had?
It's something that I started since being part of the Mars One selection process. I
Okay.
started probably about, oh gosh, maybe 5 years ago. I think,
Mhm.
yeah, about 5 years ago. But I think I've only been doing it seriously every day um, for the last couple of years, and it's phenomenal. It's really changed my life.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Belinda's asking what the strategy you employed for choosing your group of 10. And,
Mm.
diverse, yes. But what were you specifically looking for in your particular team?
Well, we can't talk about a lot of that publicly. There's some things that Mars One has asked us not to disclose. What I can say is that I was the only person in my team who was given no choice. Now, in every one of the teams of 10, there was one person that was placed in the team automatically. It happened overnight because Mars One, the head office is in Europe, but they have staff in the US and other places. And so the email went out overnight for us in Australia saying, the selection process will look like this. Please organise your teams. And I woke up in Australia and everything had already happened and all the teams are pretty much full. And it's like, what? But what they had automatically done is allocated one person as like a foundation person in each of the teams. And I was in team blue and everyone else just kind of was already in my team. So I didn't really ta-da, there it was.
Right.
And that person that they allocated to the teams is not allowed to move. We're allowed to move between teams. We're absolutely, day one, our team might look dramatically different than what it does today. People might choose that, I know these people really well now, and I don't think this will be optimal for the best outcome on day one. So we can make decisions to move to another team any day we like until we start the process, except for one person in each team, and I'm not able to move. The reason why I was put in a team by myself initially, and like all of the other 9 were that had in the same situation, was that I was the only person in a particular category, female, Oceania, and in my sort of age bracket. And so it was difficult for me to
Yeah.
have I guess, someone, and I'm not a competitor, but someone of a similar sort of category to ensure that there was equality across teams. So they went, you can be in blue, and then everyone else make your choice.
Wow. That's incredible. Vanessa, sorry, you've just come on. Yes, we are still here. We are actually live. So if you have a question for Dianne, I've gotten to none of my questions. Everybody else has, taken over the show pretty much tonight.
That's great. It's been good fun.
Dianne, I'm really interested in the fact that you were born in 1969. Something kind of important happened that year in space.
Yes. And you were born in 1969.
And I was born in,
Heidi.
yes, it's kind of a very important year for various reasons. Do you think that did that have any kind of, did you grow up thinking, oh my gosh, I was born in the year that they stood on Mars, on the moon. I'm going to be that girl one day on another planet. Was there anything there for you?
Not in relation to 1969 per se. I was born the day before Neil Armstrong stepped on the moon.
Yeah.
So
pretty
some
amazing.
people may think that's fate.
Yeah.
However, it's going to take more than a birth date to make this happen.
Yeah.
So, but I guess I grew up in that era where it was exciting. Space travel was on the verge of us going into our solar system, beyond our solar system. The planets were fascinating. We saw Earth for the first time from space. And actually, that was a moment in history that incited and inspired so many of our environmental movements, was when we saw the first picture of our planet from space. Amazing time for sustainability and the environment. But my interest in space came from my dad. My dad was a huge lover of science fiction, and still is now. Loves the movies, loves the books, devours them. And as you mentioned earlier, Heidi, I grew up in the Northern Territory as a young girl from the age of 10 to 17, my parents, we lived on an Aboriginal community in the desert, and I taught myself from books. So a lot of homeschooling, done it before COVID, whatever,
Nothing.
COVID. No, it's difficult. It's not an easy thing to do. But I read my father's books ferociously. There was not a lot to do. The TV didn't exist. We didn't have, in those days, it was the 80s. There was no internet. So I read and I read all my dad's science fiction books and watched movies when we had an opportunity to go into Alice Springs and go to the cinema. And I watched Star Wars, all of those sorts of things. So I wanted to imagine that it's possible, because I grew up thinking that we were going to be in space at some stage or other. Then, of course, why not? And it just hadn't happened yet. That's all.
Yeah. Well, I find that so interesting because, yes, I was born in 1969 as well. And I remember my dad talking about the fact that I was born in the year that man stepped on the moon. So that must say something about what my future would be. And then I was telling you earlier that we have this photo of my dad. He was on the motorcycle for heading all the astronauts up George Street for the motorcade. Is that what they used to call it?
Motorcade,
the motorcade. So he was the front motorcycle policeman in that photograph. So he felt there was something in that as well that should link me to be going into space. But of course, that's not been my path. But it has been your path for whatever reason. And you posted a beautiful quote from Winston Churchill today, saying, "Fear is a reaction, courage is a decision." And I'm really interested to know about the courage you have felt that it's taken for you to make the decision. I know you've talked a little bit about that tonight, but when you think about what you've really had to dig deep on to find that courage to put your hand up for something extremely risky. Yes, if it all goes well, my gosh, what a legacy.
Yeah.
But I suppose there must be that little fear as well that it perhaps might not go well, but you still have found the courage to put your hand up and say, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do what it takes to prepare my body and my mind and my life to ensure I'm the best I can be to be on that rocket and setting up a new society on another planet. Where has that come from?
The courage, I think it comes from, I guess you could say, a fearless curiosity. I really believe that this is something which is possible. And when we have belief, and when we take the time to understand what we want to really achieve, and we do the research or really do our background reading and understand what's possible and what are the barriers to success, and we see something that's just there on the edge of what's possible, then what's wrong with grabbing it? What's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen. So my courage comes from not being afraid to have a go, because if I don't have a go, I'll never know. I don't want the barriers in my life to be set by me. I want someone else to make this decision that, Dianne, you're not the right person to go to Mars. It's not going to be me that says that. I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to keep knocking on that door and let someone else say, not today. Or come on in. Yeah. We often do that, don't we? Especially as women. How often do we say, oh, look, I haven't got all of those qualifications for that job. And yet we might run households, or we're in charge of the funding for the local netball club, or something else that proves that we've got more than enough skills and abilities for things. We hold ourselves back all the time. I was lucky enough. My father was probably the strongest feminist in my life growing up. He never let me feel. Yeah, he did. I know. He never let me feel that being a girl should stop me from doing something. For example, I wanted to play cricket when I was a little girl. This is back in the 70s, and because my twin brother was playing cricket, and anything he was going to do, I was going to do. Of course, that's what twins are like, right?
Of course.
So, but of course, in those days, girls didn't play cricket. I didn't understand that because my brother played, so why can't I? I should be allowed to. But my dad decided to go and coach the local boys team So then that barrier wasn't there for me to enter. Of course, naturally, being the coach's daughter, I had to work 3 times as hard.
Yeah, of course.
And be better than just about anybody else to make sure that it wasn't looking like I was getting a shot because I was the coach's daughter.
Yeah.
But that first barrier wasn't there of someone believing you're a girl, you can't do that. So
Mm.
I want to be that for all of those other girls too. In the STEM world, science, tech, engineering, math, I want other girls to see. If you can't see it, you can't be it. I want people to realize that we can achieve extraordinary things. You just got to go for it. You never know what's going to happen. It won't happen at all if you don't put your hat in the ring.
So true. Such true words. Which brings me to my final question. Finally, my question that I want to ask. And that, we are on the Wine of Wisdom show. So I would love to hear from you, Dianne. What is the most impactful piece of wisdom that has been handed down to you? And, why was it impactful, and how has it helped shape you?
Yeah. Why not? Those 2 words are the most impactful words I have in my vocabulary. And they were handed down to me from my mother, who is the most fearless woman I know, extraordinary. A number of years ago, when she turned 70, she decided she was going to learn to ride a bicycle. At 70, she'd not had a bicycle ever before in her life. And she decided it was time to learn to ride a bike. And I remember being there at her house and watching her ride down the driveway, and the bike was doing this, right? And I'm thinking, oh my God, please don't fall, please don't. I must have been like, I don't have children. It must have been anyone who has children. The training wheels are off the bike and the bike's go. So you must be thinking, oh my God, please don't fall, please don't break anything. That's what I was thinking about my mother.
I bet.
But you should have seen the look on her face. It was the cat who's got the cream. She was just in so much joy and pleasure doing this amazing thing for herself. Look at, I succeeded in riding a bike at 70. So this is fantastic. And I thought, wow, why not? And why do those 2 words mean so much? Well, if you think of the term why, just that word why, as someone doing a PhD, I'm always thinking, why? Why does that happen? How does that occur? You really drill down to something to try and understand something deeply. But when you ask, why not? That opens up possibility, doesn't it? What could things be? So why not? You can't help but think anything could occur. So I love that. And they're my 2 favorite words that exist in the human language.
I love that. Yeah. And it's just so perfect with all I shouldn't go to Mars because I'll never see my family again. I shouldn't go to Mars because I'm in a beautiful relationship for 6 years so far. And, I shouldn't go to Mars because what about this PhD that I'm doing? Where will I get to apply it? But why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Why not? The universe will provide. Things will integrate in a way in my life where the things will happen so that I'll be able to make an impact. It will be impactful whether I get to go to Mars or whether I stay here on Earth and get to implement some of the things I've been doing in my PhD in reducing food waste. We can do these things. Why not?
Why not? I love it. So we're gone way over time. This has been the longest episode, and I have skipped questions because I've had to no more. Dianne,
it's been great fun.
It's been so amazing to talk to you and hear your story. Hear your story, but also, your generosity of spirit, and for you, hearing about all your really deep, intense reasons for wanting to go to Mars that are nothing to do with, I want to go to Mars because I'm going to be famous. No, of course. And not that I ever thought that from meeting you, but really what's been unpacked for me tonight is that the generosity of you putting yourself out there, as I'm sure the other 99 skillful, experienced, amazing, incredible humans are doing, by putting your hand up to go to Mars, it has meant that us here on Earth are likely to have a better planet because of you. And I thank you for that. I really do. Thank you.
Thank you. And honestly, the most courageous thing in signing up to go to Mars was announcing it publicly to the world.
Yeah.
Because people might think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
I might not get to go. Things could go terribly wrong.
Mm.
A lot of things could be quite negative.
Yeah.
But they could also be really positive too. Why
Yeah.
not?
Why
Got to
not?
give it a crack.
Well, I think that is a wonderful way for us to finish. And for those who are still on, and I can see that there is quite a few of you, I would love you to have a think about what it is in your life that you could say, why not? Take 5 minutes. I'm only giving you 5 minutes, and I'd love you to put it in the comments. Let's all put one of our why not moments in the comments and share that together, because as Dianne had said earlier on, when you say it out loud as well, what a difference that makes, right?
And I think about, all of these big goals that we have, like you and I have been talking about tonight, Heidi. There might be things that at the moment during COVID we can't achieve because of unable to go places, or our businesses are on hold or something like that. And these are really challenging times. And while they may be on hold, it doesn't mean that we personally are on pause. And that's my attitude during this in COVID. I'm not stopping myself from getting ready to Mars just because Mars 1 might be in hiatus because the world's closed down for COVID.
Yeah.
I haven't closed down.
Yeah.
There's a lot we can still do.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. My God. I have to finish because otherwise I'll just keep I'm just going to keep doing this to you and like.
No.
So thank you, Dianne, for your time. I so appreciate you being here tonight to tell us this story about this amazing project. Thank you, everybody who is either listening now or who will be listening after we click off. I have if you have any questions for Dianne, please put them in the comments. We'll come back and check them. We will be recording this. We are recording this, but we will be transcribing this and putting it on my website. So if you do want to share it with anyone you know at a later date, it will be there to do that. But in the meantime, cheers to everybody. I know you've got your decaf
water now.
Water, your body's a better temple than mine. But to everybody, I see Magdalene. I'll have to give up Shadi. I don't know I know you too well, Magdalene. I don't think that's going to happen.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us tonight. It's just fantastic to have had so much interaction, and I love the questions that have come through. All
right. So good night, everybody. If you would love to know who we've got upcoming in the Wine and Wisdom shows, please direct message me and I will be able to set you up so you get notifications. But until then, good night. Have a wonderful week.